With that being said, fuck, I'm even nervous about this, guys. Shall we do a final send off for this season for YouTube? No more boxes until we finish this. It's a skill issue. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, YouTube. This when the time this gets to you, it's gonna be too late already. I know. Trust me, I know. I have to edit a lot of stuff. But thanks for being a part of the ride, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart. And I can even say this from the bottom of Brady and Rosie Chan's hearts. The number one thing that we wanted to go ahead and facilitate with this the number one thing we wanted to facilitate with this is an open discussion. Like, we're not, when we look at this whole thing and we analyze the characters and we analyze the depth of as to how a character's like progressing, degressing, what abuse looks like, certain things, we're doing this through the anime only perspective, as if these characters were in real life. And I think it's super important that we state that, because there's some people that get confused and think we're criticizing the author. Well, we're not. In fact, I'm fucking praising the author. I'm quite literally being like, hey, they're following rules of realism in this regard. When you start seeing like a character that quite literally lost all of his attachments start forming like unhealthy bonds, or start doing unhealthy actions, or maybe not even processing certain things, like, big difference. Like, whenever one of my predictions comes true, I'm just as shocked as you guys. That's my number one thing. I get so fucking happy, and so, like, you guys have seen me fucking lose my shit over everything, which is really important, guys, that I'm throwing that out there, because for me, when an author, you're able to so closely write characters that go through trauma, that go through attachment issues, narrative issues, family dynamics, power dynamics, displacement issues, so on and so forth, and you're able to go ahead and put that in a continuum, and I'm able to be like, hey, from the very beginning, it's like, this is something that I see in therapy with clients like this, and this is usually the reason why, and it happens. Guess what? That's not, like, first off, that's not my fucking wizardly power. No, that's just the power of psychology and having a background in psychology. But it's quite literally thanks to the author putting in some work, some actual research that makes these characters grow and evolve and have faults, because every human has faults, just like every character should. So that is the number one thing. Yes. That is the number one thing that, like, we should be able to go ahead and throw out there and be able to say, hey, it's okay to disagree with some points. You can be like, hey, you know what? I don't like the fact that you said this take about this character. I didn't see him that way. That's cool, But when there's certain actions that happen and we're like, hey, you know what? We see this in, say, domestic abuse victims, or we see this in these things. We're talking from, our professional experience, like, from the medical background. This is sort of how, a psychologist, a therapist, if you went to a doctor, how they might go ahead and look at this and be like, hey, you know what? Like, this is sort of what we're seeing, this is what we're encountering, so on. But it's not just that, dude. Like, I've been wrong in my predictions before. I know Brady's been wrong, in his predictions, whatever. It happens. Like, no, we're not going to be 100% on it, because we're not the author. We could only use our psychology background to make inferences on the character, their progression, their digression, their trauma cycle, so on and so forth. And occasionally, the twists and turns that the authors do take us so much. But I do want to say one thing. Even with all of our predictions, even with everything, the number one thing that I want to go ahead and give you guys, when it comes to, I guess, going forward, or like, Mushoku Tensei in general, there's a lot of communities out there, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people that will try and shoot down discussions about topics. Like, for example, what other person will actually talk about abuse for an hour? I don't think a lot of YouTubers, emoji reactors or whatnot, are going to actually sit there and have an open discussion with Twitch about, like, hey, this is sort of what abuse looks like. What do you guys think about this? And we're not even actually attacking the characters themselves. What we're saying is, like, hey, people that are abusers have these qualities. We're not shitting on the writing or anything like that, But I think it's super duper important that, like, we clarify that and we say, it's been a fucking journey, man. The number one thing I wanted you guys to feel, and, like, even while watching YouTube, especially if you're a novel reader, especially, if what's to come, is to put you in the exact same state that we put a lot of our clients in, which is that, like, chase and pull, like that anxiety portion that Brady always talks about, which is, what's coming, but we don't. But it's sort of like that L and light thing when they're fighting one another, or they're getting really close. If you guys have ever been there, in that situation where you guys are like, oh my God, he's so close to predicting it, or he predicted it, and your heart's racing and all of that, hey, we're glad to have you a part of the journey. We're glad to give you that feeling of rush that feeling, that sensation of like, oh crap, maybe they are getting really, really close, or maybe they just shot off so far in the dark that it doesn't even make sense. And that's one of the most common comments that I've seen a lot pop out. But overall, it's just enjoying the writing, using a psychological background, and going from there. What a fucking cyclical journey this has been, right? Like, let me just what a cyclical journey this has been for Eris in that way. And I'm trying to like put myself in their shoes, you know, where it's like, you know, you started off with your only friend that was Ghislaine, right? Even though positions of power, all of that, let's disregard that for a second. Let's just talk about the attachment that is Ghislaine. You started off with Ghislaine being like being your only friend, and then Rudy comes in, and then everything happens, and you end up right back where you started with your only friend in the world with you. Talk about fucking chills, man. Talk about fucking chills. I'm thinking about that, and it's like, you know, she went through this whole fucking hero's journey, or journey by herself, of like trying to self-growth and actualization, and, you know, the whole weirdness that was the previous episodes where that guy was trying to push her being a concubine and shit like that. And then you end up right back to where you started, only slightly different with your world experiences. That's very reflective of life, if we're going to be honest. You know, sometimes we think that we're going through great changes, and we end up right back at a scenario where we first started, and we're like, fuck. Whether it's moving abroad and coming back, or, you know, taking on a new job, or so on and so forth. Like, you know, sometimes these cyclical journeys can be really, really tough to experience, but they're often a part of life. And it's often about having your goals, your goal orientation, your future goal orientation planned out, like what that means for you. Like, where do you see yourself going? What do you see yourself doing? And one thing that I was thinking about, and this is me like throwing out there, it's like, I think, you know, regardless of everything that we've talked about, like, you know, self-growth, you know, Rudy unconsciously sort of putting up these walls, and then, like, you know, attaching himself anxiously towards Eris, and like all the power dynamics and everything we've talked about. I feel like Eris did not leave in a malicious way, you know, like it sucked the way she left. I'm not gonna fucking lie. If someone did that to me, it'd be crushing, right? But the way that she left, you know, in character perspective for her, that would seem normal, you know, like, i.e., she did not have to leave a note for Rudy, right? She could have just, she could have gone ahead and just like left without saying a word. But yet she thought about him. She thought about like, hey, like, I'm just gonna, Eris and communication has always been an issue, Nick Mirror, especially since the first couple of episodes. But she still managed to find a way to at least write down, like, hey, you know what? Don't come searching for me or whatever, because it's a self-growth type of thing. If it was anybody else, if it was Eris from the first couple of episodes, if it was Eris from, like, you know, the first time that we saw her, she wouldn't have done that. So what does that mean? There was still some sort of sweet sentiment left behind. Granted, cutting off her hair can leave so many bad things culturally, you know. Maybe that would have been an important question to go ahead and ask for Rudy's, like, hey, what does hair, you know, if she would have taken the time to actually think about like the repercussions as to, or him to think about, like, hey, you know what, let me ask about like cultural sensitivities or cultural beliefs, even though, like, I'm pretty sure he was starting to get addressed, you know, as he was growing up. Parents do that occasionally. So, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. No, oh man, don't worry about it. Like, I go on long rants all the time, but I really appreciate it, man. Thanks so much, Dark Wolf. But yeah, Eris has grown a lot, like significantly. If I point from the first episode that we saw her to now, like, the journey that she has taken has been a hell of a journey, guys. It has been one of the biggest journeys of growth, of self-reflection, of actually, I don't know, starting to communicate, of starting to find bonds and starting to make friends, i.e. she made a lot of friends along the way, starting to find power in herself, starting to find power in her actions, starting to understand that, hey, you know what, it doesn't necessarily, and punching everything doesn't necessarily solve everything. Starting to use her head a little bit more, starting to emotionally think, starting to sit down and process shit, or when a friend tells you, hey, leave it, she leaves it. She's done so much growth in that regard that it's like, she could have just left, and that's my number one thing, and that's why I get chill seeing this. She could have literally just left Rudy and not said anything, but she didn't, and that for me shows signs of like care. That shows signs of wonder. That shows signs that like, hey, if a person was at least able to go out and do that for you, even though they might be saying, hey, like I'm leaving, it's probably not a goodbye forever, And I do hope that, honestly, I do hope that we see her back again. Whenever she decides to come back, future seasons, if that is possible. Although if she disappears, I'm just gonna be sad altogether. But anyway, let me get back into it, guys. And if you guys are wondering, right, like me throwing this out there, hey, why does this have to, like, why is relapse important? It happens in everything, guys. Relapsing is a part of the natural life. Like, for example, if you try and change your hobbies, like from day to night, that doesn't happen. You go through relapse periods where, hey, you're going through the cycle of change and maintenance, and then all of a sudden you're right back to where, like, damn, maybe I shouldn't have drank tonight. Maybe I shouldn't have smoked tonight. Maybe I shouldn't have done this thing, but it's a work in progress, and life is always a work in progress. And that's the whole thing about cyclical individuals like that. I wonder for Rudy, and I have this whole theory built out on Rudy specifically, as to, like, people love to shit on Rudy as a character. Like, I've seen people try and shit on Rudy and try and be like, oh, he's not a good character, so on and so forth. And I 1,010% disagree on that. Rudy has been also one character that has been growing significantly. And we've seen it time and time, even with, like, when we were pointing out the boundaries issues and everything in the first couple of episodes, guess what? We've seen the boundaries that he's starting to set up for himself in all of this regard. Granted, he's probably going through one of the biggest, darkest fucking breakups out there, because, guys, imagine if all of a sudden your partner just left you without any, like, question, regard, any, like, they hit it and quit it type of thing, and you've been, like, best friends with them forever. That would hurt. That would take a long time to go ahead and recover from. But my number one fear for him is that he's going to set up these walls of isolation for himself. Like, he'll be so caught in, because he has no one else, no other support network around him at the moment, that it'll literally take him moving into a new setting, a new environment, a new thing that is able to disrupt his cycles for him to be able to wake up from this. For him to be able to be, hey, you know what? Like, maybe I shouldn't stay in this cycle. Maybe I can laugh. Maybe I can smile. Maybe I do have friends. Maybe if they brought back, what was his name? The guy that kept calling him Shisho. The guy that kept calling him Master, right? What was his name, chat? I know you guys know who I'm talking about. Oh, thanks so much for the follow, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Sonoba, yes. If they brought back Sonoba, right? And even as a little challenge character, a friend character, like pushing him along the way to expand his comfort zones in a new environment, guess what? That would work wonders. Because being in a dark pit without any support pillars or anything like that, it can lead to literally a cycle of destruction within oneself. That's when you start destroying your own schema. That's when you start destroying sort of the values and core beliefs that you've set up. And especially if you start, like, reaching with heart issues, like, like romantic issues, issues in bed, issues with, like, relating to others, interpersonal communication, 101 things can literally start developing. If you've gone through some really, really deep, dark shit and you're in a dark hole, no one's there for you. If no one's able to reach out a hand to you for you when you need it, And that's the whole point of being able to break out of the cycle, having that new environment for yourself. Yeah, and being able to continue on forward. Anyway. Damn, bro, I can feel your fucking pain. I've been there, bro. I've been there. Oh no, backstory time. Are we about to feel? Yeah, he did not be looking fine. For example, I'll even point this out. That in itself, bullying, guess what, guys? That's abuse too. And the moment that they tie you up naked in front of everyone else, that's sexual abuse too. Like, it's trauma, dude. Bullying is not a joke. Absolutely not. And it is such a big issue in a lot of high schools, middle schools, and whatnot. And going that far, it can cause a lot of repression. It can cause a lot of sexual trauma. It can cause a lot of in case you guys are wondering, and here's where I'll point something out. You know, we always talk about the cycles of pain, the cycles of trauma, and that, like, you know, if you do have any form of trauma, your trauma should be your own trauma. You shouldn't pass it on to others. But the reason why we bring this up is a teaching tool, you know, because oftentimes a lot of people that have been hurt in some way, shape, or form, even unknowingly, they reach out and they hurt others, even unknowingly, because it's ingrained in them where it's like, hey, if I feel this, other people should feel this as well. And it fucking sucks, dude. Like, you know, and that's the number one thing is like, you know, well, one, you can talk about boundaries and all of that, like, you know, which is important, and we've already like touched on that. But if we're going to talk about someone going through something this traumatic, or like, you know, being bullied, being literally forced to stay home for fear of, you know, interpersonal communication out of what happened, being tied up, you know, naked in front of everyone, think about like, what would that do for you if that happened to you? What would you do? Legitimately, if someone tied you up in your high school, college, whatever, in front of everyone, and you weren't confident, say it was the first time that you were sort of standing up for yourself, and people were taking pictures and laughing, and granted, this could be his own fucking personal like narrative that he's written, you know, at that point, what would happen? You would quite literally start to close in, right? Because that outside world starts being scary. That outside world is dangerous. So what do you have in your immediacy? Discord, you know, your manga, your anime, your video games, whatever's in your immediate control, and you try and control that world. You try to control that world, even your fantasies, to the point where they might even become, say, cross boundaries and cross lines, because other people aren't there. You know, you're not reaching out to other support builders to be like, hey, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this okay? What is normal? What is not normal in a situation where no one is around to tell you? It would break people. It would hurt. And if we're going to talk about systems of hurt and systems of pain, that is for a high schooler to go through something like that, even a middle school, anyone at any point in your life, going through something like that can be one of the most devastating things in your career. You know, being bullied, being shamed, either at a job or anything like that, it can distort your perception as to what is okay or what is not okay. So I think for the first couple of, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think for the first couple of days it's okay to let someone grieve and go through something like that. But if they're still stuck in, for example, I have a sort of a policy with one of my brothers. He often goes through periods of let's just say dark cycles of depression and stuff like that, you know. And I'm like, hey, you know what? It's okay to go through, like, you know, and having these conversations with family members. Like, it's okay to want to, like, you know, be distant for a little bit, have your own time. But what I give them, I'm like, hey, like, I just want to make sure that you're okay, or my parents want to make sure that you're okay, or someone wants to make sure that you're okay, you know, and like say that it's like, been trying to text him for a couple of days. Like by the third time that he doesn't, I'll go over, and I have a key to his house, so I'll just go in and I'll be like, yo, what are you doing? What games are you playing? What anime are you watching? You know, and it's sort of a discussion that we've had. It's an open communication that we've had to be able to get one another out of that like dark space. Because sometimes, yeah, you do try and lock yourself away. You do try and put up these walls. You do try and put people away because you don't want people to come into your environment that you're feeling. You know, sometimes you're feeling down. Sometimes you're feeling really happy, and you want to share all that energy out with everyone. But in scenarios like this, it's important to discuss that, or even bring in like, hey, you know what, we're going to go do this, or you're coming with us to go do some mental health professional or something, you know. It's always important that you're able to go ahead and communicate and have open communication with that. But anyway. So Masha Tank. What I gotta say with that, if your parent or someone sees you go through this and they're like, they genuinely write a heartfelt note saying, I understand what you're going through, whatnot, for a majority of the time, being in a state like that, a lot of people are not going to take that in, you know, because no one's truly going to understand what the kid's going through. I think it'd be more open to actually sitting down, opening the door, sitting down with them, having a conversation, than leaving a note like that. And it's a bit rough when you're going through periods like that. At least you left a note. I got to be honest, because, you know, Some parents don't even do that, sadly. Some parents see you struggling and, they see you that like you're in a rough spot and they don't even open up, man. There's that like afraid like nature of like figuring out that maybe you're going through a rough spot might be a reflection on them. And that's such a weird way of like throwing that out there. Pobrecito. Ay, mi corazón, pobrecito. The dude's gonna put him to work, isn't he? If you're gonna be here, you at least might as well make yourself useful. We don't have like time for depressed kids around here or some shit. Don't tell me this guy. Okay. Bruh. Oh. The way he said that was like, hey, I'm in pain. I'm gonna redirect that pain onto you. And that happens a lot. Okay, I do that as well, man. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, I do that as well. I think it's often like a common defense mechanism where it's like, if you're in pain and someone comes in and like isn't acknowledging everything, pushing all this shit on you, and you're like, what the fuck do you want? It's that instant rebuttal with shit like that. But oof. It's a redirection of pain, exactly. And it's normal. It's completely natural. Don't let anyone be like, oh, you're a dick. Oh, no one does that. No, it's a completely natural, normal response. Like when you're like facing some trauma, when you're dealing with a lot of shit, oftentimes if people throw something at you, you're not just gonna calmly take that. You're gonna fucking revert it back because you've already reached your limit, Shit, dude. Thanks, AZ. I appreciate the birthday wishes. Here's the thing, and let me throw this out there real quick because I think it's important for me to address. A lot of people don't see breakups as real fucking trauma, and this is like my whole thesis was regarding relationship dissolution or literally fucking breakups, right? When you go through a heartbreak and you've been attached, you've been growing attached, or you have any form of attachment, strong attachments, it can quite literally feel like physical pain. It can not only fucking like mental, emotional, psychological pain, literal physical pain. It can pain you to get up in the mornings. It can feel like you're struggling, to quite literally get up out of bed and be able to do something. Thanks so much, Magister. It can literally like struggle to even put on a smile or even be able to wake up at times. Sometimes you might sleep in for 2 or 3 days because that pain is there, mental, physical, emotional, all of that is like constricted in of itself. The number one thing I'm going to point out there is like, society still has this belief that a relationship should be 50-50, right? Where it's like you give 50% of yourself, right? So what happens when a person walks away with that 50%? What happens when a person breaks up with that 50%? A psychologist, any good psychologist will tell you, hey, you know what? Both of you should be complete individuals. There should be no 50-50. It should be like the extra that you guys have as complete individuals, not one trying to control the other, but literally like, hey, let's go out, let's do this. Like that extra over the 100% of you that is an individual that comes together and that like, helps one another out. And that's the number one thing is like, when I bet you some people would look at this and they'd be like, oh man, can he just get over it? Can he just do some things? Or if he grieves for a long period of time, why is he grieving for so long? I would have been over it. No, everyone grieves at different periods of times. Every relationship is different. Every breakup is different. And the time that you take to heal for yourself, guess what? There's really no fucking predestined time. Like, one of the best words that I can put it is like, you can always take like for normal healing, right? In any relationship, at least to the study that I did, was quite literally take any relationship that you've had, right? The time that you did, you divide it by half, and then boom, you have like sort of the average fucking healing factor for most people. Granted, some people heal faster, some people don't, but that's just in terms of what the attachment is, But that's really important that we're able to go ahead and pinpoint that out and say, hey, Rudy is going through a struggle right now. Rudy is deep down in a dark pit with no support structure at this moment. You don't see any friends around them trying to be like, hey, like, let's go ahead and do this. Hey, we can go to a bar, get drunk, or some stupid shit like that, trying to get him interrupt his routine. You don't see any other individuals I know. Imagine having feelings. You don't see, like, goal orientation. What is his goal? At the moment, he has no goals because his goal was quite literally to get Eris here. So it's like a completion of, I don't know how to put it. A completion of goals. A completion of, like, hey, we just took a long journey. We got here. We're going to start planning, future planning. And all of a sudden, they're not there. So he might feel extremely lost. He might wander for a couple of years, a couple of months, trying to find himself, trying to find how to smile, trying to find how to communicate. His communication skills might deteriorate. His, I don't know, even like sexual energy, sexual attachments, all of that might quite literally start going downhill. Like, he might want to have sex, but he might have struggle going through with sex or have delayed gratification or any 1,001 issues that are out there, because trauma is trauma. And especially when it comes to relationship issues, like, if you guys ever get into a really, really deep relationship and like they end up hurting you in a really, really big way, and say that you've been attuned to their sexual needs, it's quite hard. Or you've been sexually traumatized while in that relationship, it is quite hard to recover from that. It's doable, 110% doable, in case you guys do have that. But it's not an easy road. It's not just like you just get up and you're able to go ahead and yeah, erectile dysfunction is actually really, really common when it comes to situations like this. When you're really, really emotionally attached to someone, or when you're attached to someone and you're just like, like, hey, we've been together for a long time, and there's sexual trauma or trauma of any nature in that regard. Erectile dysfunction is actually really, really common. It's one of the most common things that happens to guys. You go through some form of trauma, guess what? You get ED. Very, very common. For any sexologist out there, they'll be able to pinpoint that out. Emotions have a somatic influence. That is exactly correct, Brady. And that is exactly why we're able to go ahead and point that out. Like, trauma can literally manifest itself in physical manners, i.e., hey, you might not be able to, like, come, or, erectile dysfunction, or so on and so forth. But with that being said, let's go ahead and continue. They're not going to be scared of him. They're not going to be scared of him. He's done this whole journey. He's done this full circle. They're going to be like happy about him or something. If they're scared of him, I'm going to lose my shit, dude. The curse! The curse! It's breaking! Oh. Oh. Bruh, you might like legitimately love him, but you just scarred him unknowingly. Fuck, oh, that happens a lot, dude. Also, Soterius, that wasn't exactly directed at you. It's just I've seen that a lot pop up, like, whether in DMs or whatnot, people being like, hey, you should, like, really zone in. And it's like, hey, any good writer, any good book, or any good anime, through all the animes that we've seen, if it's important, it'll always pop up. Loving partner doesn't mean good partner. True. But I was about to say, yeah, why didn't you put that in the she is static. I mean, but also feelings of love, ew, it's all mushy stuff, dude. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not what, like, she'd like to communicate, Like, are you kidding me? Oof. But aw. Yeah, but how long, dude? Are you gonna be in like your 20s or 30s and, like, still single, fighting over him, and he's like married with kids and shit? Like, how long are you gonna wait? Or is it just gonna be immediate? Are you just gonna go train for like a month or two and then come back and be like, Rudy, I'm ready for you, or some stupid shit? Like, yeah, what does training period look like for you? What does, like, being able to, like, leave and still have these emotions feel for you without them changing? Like, bruh. Yeah, because he could have moved on. That's the number one thing. It's like, I mean, a majority of us, if our partner leaves us, and it's been a couple of years, you've healed from it, you're going to start to move on, right? That's the number one thing. And also, can you imagine that? I'm just going to throw this out there. It's a wild fucking thing. But let's say that this is like, I don't know, polygamy, or like, that type of thing is out there in this world. Even if, like, Rudy is, let's say, married or with a partner or someone, right? And she comes back into his life. How do you manage that? How do you manage that communication? How do you manage, like, hey, you know what? Like, you know, set up the like, I don't know, like boundary talk or contract talk or like, hey, you know, this is like, you know, my first partner, you know, I like you still, you want to be my second partner type thing if that were to happen. Like, because that would be, you know, I don't know how people would feel. Would they be okay with that? Would they just take it in instantly and be like, oh yeah, it's a part of like normal world. I expected this to happen. Or would it actually, because like if you really want to make this interesting, you'd double up drama out of that, you know? You develop drama out of that, and you quite literally like start pinpointing out certain things, or even if you know someone else, if you have strong feelings for them, you'd be like, yo, what's happening here? but but yeah, I'm just curious as to how that like how this is all gonna go down in the future. Oh, I actually like the short hair. That's awesome. What are you just gonna stand up and start walking in aimlessly? The best. The best. The guy on the second floor. Oof. Oof. Fuck. Oof. That's a fucking burn, dude. Oh, let me cool off with some water. The guy on the second floor. Can you imagine that? Like, oh fuck, dude. Oh fuck, dude. Can you imagine like all of a sudden here even your like your siblings or you know your niece or nephew or whatever being like, yeah, get like the guy on the second floor and you're like, fuck, dude. Yeah, it's been years. That would hurt, dude. He has quite literally become an outsider. He has become an outsider in his own family. Like the walls became so thick that they became a fucking physical representation of where he's at, you know, and I hate to put it this way, you know, but it's sort of like, I guess a good representation of this. I can't go into that because that'd be spoilers for someone that's watching, and I can't mention this specifically. So I guess I'll reframe it. But I will say this: it's sort of like sometimes, and like back then, he had no support, he had no goal, he had no whatever. But he can go ahead. That was good timing, man. That was really really good timing. But he can go ahead and say like, even opening up the door, opening up that like door towards the walls that he's created and taking that first step would be fucking huge. Because all this time we've seen whenever he takes the first step with Roxy, you know, when he finally was able to go out and take that first step off that thing, the world started changing for him. So I think he should be able to heal a little bit quicker. Not just like heal 100%. What I'm talking about is being able to take that first step to change. And that is powerful. That is important. That is how you're able to go ahead and grow and hear and understand, you know, like Roxy was a key support pillar for him, and not just Roxy but also like, you know, I guess the parents being all up on him as well a little bit. Not I'm not talking about like, hey, you know what, like the parents did a 110% fantastic job of parenting, no, but at least like being able to push him in that regard, being able to like, hey, you're training swords, hey, you're doing this, or hi spy phage, so on and so forth. Like I'm, you know, that's the number one thing. Like having people even constantly around, even if they annoy you, can sometimes be comforting. So I think for him to be able to take that step out of these doors, it's going to be a lot quicker, a lot sooner for him. Even if he doesn't know where he's going, even if he doesn't know what his end goal is, being able to stand up and take that first step is huge. Huge. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, dude. Oh. Oh. Is she gonna tell him what Rudy is doing or feeling or whatever? Oh, Roxy knows. I'm sorry, but like, you know, especially if you ever had a martial arts teacher or whatever, and like a good one at least, you know, a good martial arts teacher, even hearing a little bit about like sort of what you're doing or where you're heading, they'll always sort of like, you know, a good teacher can see your potential and can see where you're going and stuff. So it's the best way I can put it. Like, oh, Wait, are we seeing Paul again? Let's go. Well, are you not going to tell her that you're disappointed in her for not finding your other family member? Got him. I'm kidding. Oh, that's sweet. At least he actually went out. At least he actually went out and hugged her, dude. I'm proud of that. That is actually pretty good. You guys gotta admit that was. We had to at least revisit that 1 second, man. But no, I'm happy. I'm happy he's actually like, I don't know, he seems like he was more high spirited, like being able to go down there, dude. Hell yeah. Talk about growth, dude. Aw. Oh, he's even clean shaven. Oh, bro, that's my dude. My dude started cleaning up his act. Let's go. Yeah, let's go. How fucking sad is this gonna be, though? Now that I'm thinking about it, like, how sad is this gonna be, dude? Like, I'm thinking about, like, you know, the way that this character is written, you know, because Paul is written so that you're actually able to see the flaws in his character, you know, and like you're able to like be like, hey, you know what, I shouldn't try to be like this person when I grow up, like, you know, the bad qualities, you know, I shouldn't necessarily try and like, you know, do certain things. But like he's very caring, at least when it comes to like the younger kids, you know. But my thing is like, how sad is it going to be that this whole emphasis has been like on, say, like searching for mom, and then hey, at the very end you have to make a choice between mom or dad. Oof. Oof. Can you guys imagine that? Like quite literally, you've been crying for mom all this time. At the very end, you know, she's able to get mom back, but at the cost of say dad or something, or brother or sister or something huge like that. That is devastating towards family dynamics, and that would also, I don't know. Well, what I'm wondering specifically about is sort of what the outside families, like all of their families, think about the situation, you know. And I'm kind of surprised that no one has tried to step in that regard. But anyway, bruh, I fucking called it, guys. Yo, yo, yo! I fucking called it. I said that they were underground or some shit, dude. I was like, I kept saying, yo, why the fuck aren't they searching? Yeah. The entire time I'm like, yo, if people got thrown into fucking like waters and like other like, you know, fucking died like off of that shit, why wouldn't you start searching random ass dungeons and shit? Oof. What an angle. What an angle, first off. I love how OP she is, that like she's like, all right, cool, I'm out. Like that is she's so I love her character, man. Yeah, she's so fucking great. Like literally, like up here, it's like, hey, yo, you know, everywhere I go, I'm fucking causing trouble. You know, I can't pay for shit, but I'll reward you with some shit, you know. And then she just disappears, dude. Like it's great. It's hilarious. It's a good way to like go ahead and push, you know, people in the right direction. This is really powerful, and I think that this is like really, really important that I emphasize. Guys, if you guys have ever gone through something like this, where you guys have a schema or a belief system like this, where it's like, hey, if I step out, you know, people are always gonna laugh at me, I'm stupid, no one loves me. Really, really hard belief systems. Try to, you know, try to find, if you're in university, college, or whatever, there should always be a counselor available or a therapist available for students. It should be free, if I remember correctly, for the most part. So, you know, try and seek out help. There is things that, like different interventions that can definitely help just addressing sort of the schemas and stuff there. I think the number one tools that a lot of therapists use for these particular things is like cognitive behavioral therapy, where they'll quite literally start going down the line, and to find where that origin is and how to put tools and skills, life skills, interventions in place that will be able to help you. So throwing that out there, guys, if you are going through something deep and I don't know how to put it, like a little traumatizing, seek help, guys. Like, in what best way we can. Like, I love you guys for being here and watching this and everything, and I appreciate everything 110%. But one, this should never be a substitute for full-on therapy, and two, like, for your own growth or betterment, like, I will always, and I think chat and everyone will always be your cheerleader. So if you ever needed a sign to, like, hey, you know what, maybe I've been thinking about starting therapy or getting some type of help, even like, say like a peer support group or something like that, hey, I think that this might be the time. And that's just me being open and honest with all of you. Bruh, but you've changed a lot. Just because you've gone through the cycle. Oh no. I know I called this out in the previous episodes, but I gotta call it out again. I'm a little uncomfy. Calling it out, I guess, but I think I'll have to do it. Because this happens also in the first couple of episodes where she's just staring daintily. Like, really, like, no really color coming out of her eyes or whatever. And it is so... It's almost like, I don't know how to put it. It's almost like, whoa, what happened? What happened? Oh, I turn around and all of a sudden I see that someone, like, muted or timed or something, dude. What happened? Whoa. Yeah. Anyway, no, so something I've noticed, it's almost as though if there's two versions of her, if that makes sense, or like one sort of like just like a blank slate, right? Sort of like a REM per se, right? And then the other is sort of like the mask that puts on that's like, oh, adventure, lover, wife type thing. Like, it's weird. It is weird because every single time that this has happened, that this has popped up over and over and over again, like, it's caught my attention. And it happened in the first couple of episodes where she's talking to Rudy, or like, something happens before Rudy falls, that like her eyes are just like blanked, and then like she reacts and she's mothered, she's caring, and all of this thing. So I'm just interested if this is just like either if there's more to it, because I think that there is, because the author wouldn't be focused on it if there wasn't, or maybe it's something to do with I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. So she's definitely dreaming this. She has to be dreaming this, right? This is all a dream. Oh. Unless she's like underwater or some shit. Call my name and save. Alright, let's see. Oh, let's go. So then this upcoming season, looking at the time, this upcoming season is probably going to be the biggest forms of change for Rudy. Holy shit, he's gonna do it. The madman's gonna do it. Oh. And this time by his own 2 feet, dude. No one else helping him. He's gonna make the fucking change. Oh, dude. It's scary. It's a scary world, but you gotta take that first step. Let's go. The bad lad. Oh. What a fucking journey this has been. Holy shit. Yo. I am so legitimately fucking proud of him. That's selfie, dude. That's 150% selfie, dude. I did a fucking hair analysis. I pulled up the picture of young Selfie. Hey, yo, don't fuck with me, dude. How'd you get my hair though? Real questions, bro. Real question. I know. I'll unmute, dude. I'll unmute. Bro, we've fucking seen that Rui can change his fucking hair color, bro. Oh, bro, no, it's a little strand, the little thing that goes up top, dude, and the two bottom ones. Exactly, dude. And exactly. Holy shit, dude. What a fucking journey, ladies and gentlemen. What a fucking journey that we've been through. Holy crap. I'm excited. I am genuinely excited for what's to come. Wow. Wow, dude. I did not expect that. Whoa. Okay, that was a really powerful episode. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That is probably really, really powerful, especially taking in the meanings of that. I was like, what are you talking about, Nick Mayer? That is solo obvious, you know, like the best way that I can put it. Prediction. What do I think? I think probably Selfie is gonna mend a lot of the broken pieces that Rudy sort of feels right now. If we do see her next season, that's a big if. Only because, like, hey, you're bringing someone back that's already gone through their own personal change and being able to do anything. Oh, thanks so much for the 225 bits, man. Being able to go through their own personal journey of like self-reflection, self-love, all of this stuff. If Roxy's there, it might be Roxy, but I genuinely think that it's probably going to be Selfie first, and then we'll probably see Roxy later on down the line. But wow, what a journey, man. And I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, seeing the change and seeing Rudy take that first step out that doors, it gave me shivers, dude. Because, like, as I mentioned before, he didn't take that first step. Before, he was scared of taking that first step. And then all of a sudden, Roxy was the one that helped him take that first step. And then at the very end, he was finally able to get up, you know, even if it was scary, even if it hurt, and take that first step by himself. That is huge. That is absolutely huge. But, oof. All right, with that being said, guys, we're going to move on to the AMA question. Feel free to ask any questions about the entire fucking series. Brady is going to come on, so give us one quick second while Brady comes on. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and put up a poll real quick for you guys, which is quite literally the best waifu. We are going to put it up here. We're going to put Emilia, of course, because we got to throw in Emilia. Otherwise, the ReZero fans are going to be like, what are you talking about? Roxy. I don't care, dude. Sylphie, Eris, and then I guess I'll put Rem just for the fuck of it. All right, there you guys go. You guys have the best waifu poll in there. Give me 1 second while Brady will hopefully join us in a bit. Hope you guys are doing it. Oh, hi, Pegleg. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for coming, man. I really, really appreciate it. We're just waiting for Brady to only partially. Also had it muted. Yeah, exactly. Make sure you guys make your voices heard for what the best waifu is. Oh, Emilia taking a couple hits off of here, man. Roxy coming in with 17. Y'all are wild, dude. If you guys want to go ahead and suggest an anime or anything for us to further dissect down the line, especially using psychological elements, let us know in the Discord, man. We really take a look at all of those and we start them randomly and whatnot. Oh, let me tell Brady. Yeah, the Roxy people are going hard. Who's Emilia? What is Emilia? But yes, wow, I've been genuinely impressed by this whole show. I have a couple thoughts. I guess I'll get my finishing thoughts here. MT for me has been a real big story about change. It's been a story about you know, there are some really, really bad characters, and I don't mean like badly written characters, nothing like that. We're not even talking about the novels. I'm talking about characters that quite literally have flaws and bad traits and all of these things that make you go like, well, clearly that like this is a shitty character, and clearly they've had some shitty situations in their past that got them to this point, right? Which is shows you the mark of a well-written author, the mark of a well-written you know, like an individual that's actually able to write well, and seeing the characters grow and evolve and, you know, address a lot of topics that people aren't comfortable addressing. Like, I can almost guarantee you that people are afraid of addressing, say, like, I bet you a lot of people get hung up that like, oh, it's either his age, his mental age, or his like physical age, right? And like that's the number one thing that they'll get caught up in, or some of the boundary crossing or some whatnot. Instead of being able to get up a bunch of like the other points and be like, hey, this is sort of what's heading up into different character growth. Like you're able to go ahead and see this. And see that like, hey, you know what, maybe these characters did this and it's not the best actions, you never try and justify a character's actions, but you can go ahead and say like, that's, I wouldn't do that in my life, or like, you know what, maybe this is taboo for this reason, or so on and so forth. I asked a couple times throughout the stream, but probably a bad moment. Yeah, more than likely I didn't see it. How do you perceive Rudy now from when you first started? When I first started, I always saw Rudy as like, I don't know how to put it. I always, first off, my whole philosophy, and this is like my personal philosophy, which differs, is like through an attachment lens, through a person coming into therapy. I always saw him, if he were to come in as a kid, I would treat him as a kid and look at the family dynamics, right? I always saw him as a kid that had a lot of issues, a lot of trauma, a lot of whatever, right? So him being able to grow and evolve and actually being able to stand on his own 2 feet, that's awesome. That is huge. That is absolutely huge and a wonderful thing to see in storytelling. Like, hey, you know what? All it takes is one push sometimes. Even yourself being able to take that step forward, that enables some of the greatest changes out there. And for me, that is mind-blowing that a story is actually able to go ahead and like push that and be able to say, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's okay for people to go through something like this. It's okay, if you're feeling depressed or whatnot, or if you're feeling down and like, you have a support network, whether it's Discord or people online or whatever, that help you get up out of bed or help you do whatever you think can go. By the way, what do you think can go wrong? What kind of pitfalls? A couple. I see a couple pitfalls. What do you think Paul would treat Rudy differently if he wasn't reincarnated? I mean, but Paul doesn't know that Rudy is reincarnated. So are you talking about if Rudy didn't have wasn't a genius? I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think there would still be a big push towards Rudy learning the way of the sword or something like that, so there would probably still be a lot of tough love, if you want to put it that way. But what do you think can go wrong? A couple big things. I think a couple big things can Oh, Dagger, I already addressed that. I already addressed that before. Let me answer Dagger real quick, Punyesh. Dagger, so with Orsted, right? Yeah, Orsted. With Orsted, when he said that, I already said, hey, you know what? I think that Rudy isn't meant to be a part of this world, and this guy was probably supposed to encounter these two much, much later on. It's the only logical thing. He's probably gone through multiple realities or multiple things. Best way for me to put it. But yeah, I addressed it in a previous episode, but that's a good question nonetheless. But it's a good way for the whole lacking polish. It's a good way to go ahead and push Eris to go ahead and learn something, By the way, what do you think can go? The pitfalls, yes. A couple pitfalls I can immediately see is he literally doesn't allow other people in. If Rudy doesn't allow other people in, he's probably going to be in the struggle for a good while. He might be so strong that sometimes he might accidentally become the boss of people. His previous knowledge, his strength, his everything might be I don't know how to put it. His experiences might overbear other people his age. So other people might start looking up to him in that regard, and it might end up at a weird power dynamic. If he was evil, he would completely, I think, fit in with nobility, right? But since he's not, I just think that there might be a little bit more loyalty, or he might start building up a base or something like that. Do I think he's a good father? I mean, I'm talking about in the here and now. And the here and now, of course, it's unacceptable, but for his time, probably, yeah. He's probably, but at the same time, we've seen what parenting is like from Roxy's parents. So is he a good father compared to Roxy's parents? Or, I don't know, Rui? Or, some of the other ones? Kind of gotta weigh that, brother. Kind of gotta weigh that. Okay, what is the difference between a good parent versus an average? All right, here's the number one thing. A good parent, okay, first off, if a parent ever is like, hey, you know what? I give you food. I have a roof over your head. You don't have to worry about food, water, whatever. They're meeting the very basic fucking needs to what it means to be a parent. like being loving, the like, you know, conditional or unconditional love depending, having a shelter, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's the very base bottom of the pyramid. Guess what? Your parents decided to have you. It's not like you decided to be born into this world. So in that situation, you know, that's sort of meeting the baseline. Having your needs met, your psychological, physiological needs, emotional needs, whatever, that's the baseline for a parent, for an average parent. A good parent is going to be encouraging. They're going to go ahead and be a friend. They're going to, hey, there's something to be like, hey, that's, you know, I don't want you to go ahead and do this because this might, you know, end up bad. I've been down that road. I fucked up. I'm not a perfect parent, you know, like we've all done struggles or whatever. They're going to call out their flaws and while at the same time helping you grow. Say that you have a hobby that they don't like. Guess what? They're going to be like, hey, what can I do to help? Or how would you like me to help you? Asking these questions, because sometimes a lot of parents, it feels like it's too much to ask these questions. It feels too much like if they ask these questions, you're being vulnerable at letting you know, hey, I'm an individual, I'm a human being too, and I fuck up, right? And parents are scared of that. So imagine this, if a parent literally asked you, hey, you know what, I want to support you, I want to literally be there for you, in what ways possible can I do that? I bet you that would go miles longer than your parents trying to be like, no, don't do that, do this, or trying to shove their like perspectives onto you. But if you had caring and supportive parents, that would probably push you much, much further. I hope that makes sense. ReZero season 3, I mean, has ReZero season 3 even been announced? Or let's go to season 2. I don't know, dude. The ReZero ones are always like touch and go, you know? That's why I'm like, has it been announced? Has it not been announced? Assuming Rudy eventually does get some girl, will he be a good father? That's assuming not, dude. I think that Rudy might actually pull. I think he might pull strong. They've already shown you 3 very strong contenders for him, right? So I think he would be a good father. I think there might be some, of course, lacking like every parent, like in some regard, but I think he'd be a good father in that regard. I think he might send his kids to go ahead and like learn more things, or I don't know, maybe assist someone in the future. But Roxy's parents are top tier, man. I'm not gonna lie to you guys on that one. Fix his depression in one episode. It's like, bro, yeah, exactly, Nanos Edge. This episode was not about fixing his depression, because you don't fix a depression that easily. This episode was quite literally about him taking a step. It's quite literally a reference point towards all the other episodes where other people have been there to help him take these steps. And it's one of those moments where it's like, hey, everything has been taken from you. Like all natural supports, all attachments, all of this. The only thing he can do is either choose to keep laying there or take a step. And taking a step is one of the first big, I guess, steps to healing. And that's huge. That is huge. So no, this was not too quickly. Everyone heals at different speeds in this regard, and him being able to take that step is big. Big. I needs a wingman like Ed Brady. You know, I'll always be your wingman, man. Which character would you like a one-on-one talk with? Probably Paul, if I'm being honest. That's the one character I would love to have a one-on-one talk with, but mostly just like a dissection talk, you know? ReZero Season 3 has not been announced. Oof. I haven't slept yet, want to sit. Aw. Have a good night, Magister. Thanks so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it, man. Roxy's father has the same voice actor as Subaru. No wonder I like them. The real journey begins. Rosie! How you doing, Rosie? Hope you're doing well. Everything up to now was all but a prologue. Well, I'm excited for what's to come. I'm genuinely excited, man. There's a lot of good things, a lot of good opportunities out there for growth, for self-care, for love. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. There's been a lot of people in the community that was like not in the Mushoku Tensei community, just people outside trying to push me to drop the show for like the longest time, right? Granted, I love the mods and the admins because they've been there, even though sometimes there's some takes that are like whoa for them, right? Because it can be like tough. There are people outside of Discord that were quite literally like messaging or even emailing the support network and stuff, you know, asking that like, hey, having discussions or opening discussions about this and going hours in depth about like character interactions, motivations, whatnot was like bad or some stupid shit like that. And I was like, no, like, you know, any good, analysis streamer or whatnot will allow for these opportunities to happen, good discussions to happen, people to disagree and agree with you on. That's completely normal. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, there's people out there that like go into echo chambers, right? Or everyone must agree with them. But here we disagreed on stream live. We've argued. We've talked about like different perspectives and whatnot. But the number one thing is like having that open space to feel comfortable to be like, hey, in my perspective, this was different, or so on and so forth. Just know that like the way that we're coming from the anime only perspective and with our reference of psychology. That's pretty much it. Yeah, sometimes you just need to get out of bed and start the day. Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's a bit rough. You don't like to twist a knife with the man god. Oh, don't even get me started on the man god. I don't trust that dude at all. Absolutely at all. You do good work here. Play dragon. Thank you. Honestly, I never thought the community would grow this much when I first started it. So I'm still really, 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 really shocked about everything. And I don't know how to put it. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys, because we have grown leaps and bounds and everything. And you guys being here and being open to having these discussions and whatnot is amazing. I think I might start Konosuba sometime. Discussion part. Yeah, best part of it. Yeah, exactly. If we didn't, even I disagree with Brady. You guys have seen Brady and I go at each other about like random little like technical terms. We arrive to the same conclusion. We just like argue about the way to get there, And he's God. Come on, please. But the man God just wanted to help. No, man, fuck the man God. I'm a punch the man God. Oh, thanks so much, Fareed. I really sincerely from the bottom of my heart appreciate each and every single one of you. Brady, if you're down to come in just for a couple questions, and then we'll get started with the other thing. Let me know, man. Konosuba hype. Is Konosuba that good? Let me know, guys. Yo, Brady, what is up, brother? Man, what an episode. First off, guys, thanks so much for like sticking with us to this. Brady's here now, so if you guys want to go ahead and ask us some questions. You might want to mute the stream, brother.
Some questions. Hold on. I'm having an audio conflict here. I'm getting a weird feedback here.
I was about to say, like,
do it. Now it's fixed. Sorry about that, everyone. It was like connected to some other device. What is up, man? Can I just say happy fucking birthday?
Oh, thank you, bro. I really appreciate it.
All of the people here, all of these 70 plus people, I've seen it go up to 80. Okay, in the last stream. All right, we are all here to celebrate Edgar, who is truly a wonderful individual. Aww. I don't need to tell you all that. You all know it. Great. But just speaking as someone who knows him personally, he is not even revealing his true powers as a friend on these streams.
Right.
I've seen you guys talk about like people needing resources after like breakups and these sorts of things. I've shared my experience as well. I'll say it 1,000 times that honestly, in my like most traumatic breakup moment, I really thought my life was over. The only person who really kind of reached out to me and showed me that life goes on and can also get better was Edgar. And I really don't take that for granted. That I just if whatever happens, I have this friendship that can pull me out of anything I'm going through. So I really appreciate that, and I just wanted you all to know that.
Oh, bruh, why do you gotta hit my heart like this? Oh, brother. All right, let me bring you up since you're.
Just had to do it.
Yeah, no, dude. Look at Brady looking handsome as shit as always, and no.
You know, I had to dress up just for you, baby. I had to do it,
brother.
Well, I'm not gonna show up to your birthday stream in my sweats and in my gray drab t-shirt. Okay. Yes, the reason I wear those clothes is because they are literally all I own, because all of my other possessions are in a landfill in Portugal because of said breakup. But this is the only piece of apparel I have that's not gray or blue. Okay. So, what do I put them on for? I put them on for my best bud's birthday celebration and nothing
Aw,
else.
thanks, brother. You look handsome as shit. But hey, we're definitely gonna get fucked up tonight, are we not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I won't show you what I have because of TOS, but yes.
Aw. But I am excited, man. What a journey this has been. And let me first start off by saying, Brady, I know I stated this in the beginning, but sincerely from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being such an amazing friend and so supportive throughout this whole journey. Like as much as it's been like, you're like, hey, you've helped, like, you helped me, you whatever, dude, you've done the same and more for me, especially when, I was abroad and whatnot. I was lost for a good period of time there, and it's been thanks to your help that we've been able to stand up and, I don't know, make a fucking beautiful, amazing friendship blossom out of that. So from the bottom of my heart, man, I love you. Thank you so, so much. And that's why you're my best bud, man. Like, genuinely.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
But with that being said, guys, if you guys have any questions about Mushoku Tensei you guys want to throw out, man, what a fucking journey. I can't believe I finished it. Now I'm kind of feeling like a hole in myself. Like, we finished Mushoku Tensei.
Oh, it's quite an achievement. Now, I will say, right, I was sort of in and out of this stream. I didn't see all the stuff because I also am sort of watching it as well, kind of.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to be doing reactions to it on stream or not. But I was in and out. I don't really know what was happening. Other than like, I hopped in at some of your general impressions there. And yeah, I just want to clarify, like, I've never thought that the show is bad or that the writing is bad. I think the writing is actually really good. Does that mean I'm not disturbed by some of the content in it? Absolutely not. But I've received some flack online for reacting to an episode where I didn't know the background. I shouldn't be reacting to episode 17 when I haven't seen episodes whatever 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I have seen episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I have the same opinions. So yeah, maybe I do have to continue my reactions of Mushoku Tensei. Right now, I'm doing ReZero. I got to catch up, okay?
Yeah, dude.
Right, like I'm on the backlog. See, the plan, right? Like, we gotta optimize this shit. Now that Ed is done with Mushoku Tensei, we have to milk it a little more. Now I'll start at the beginning, and I'll do the reaction. And we just keep the train going, right?
Right. So that I can be the shit tester for if this is a good one or if this is not a good one.
Yeah. Now, because now I'm doing ReZero, and everybody's getting to watch it again with me. And see my psychological interpretations of it, because as you know, right, we disagree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We notice different things. We have a different psychological approach to things. But we're always looking for the same result, right? Like, I think that's what's so interesting about the differences in psychological perspective.
Right.
So yeah, I think it has been interesting to look at ReZero and see that. Yeah, we're like arriving at some of the same predictions, I think.
Right.
Maybe, but from a completely different starting point. That's my impression.
That's one thing that I wanted to go ahead and touch on, right? Because like people are now classifying us into little boxes, like you're narrative only, I'm attachment only, and it's like, guys, we're therapists first. Like we literally know like all the different intervention skills, CBT, humanistic, psychodynamics, all of that, right? Our specialties, yeah, we can focus a little bit more on like the narrative, but we branch out and we use all of these things. So please remember that, because like otherwise it's like, oh no, he's only a narrative, or oh no, he's only an attachment based, and like the frame of thinking goes directly into that, where it's like, oh, he's only viewing at things through this angle when we're doing all of our therapeutic interventions and skills on it. So I wanted to throw that out there just because like otherwise it can turn into a really like toxic type like mentality where it's like, oh, this person's only going to do this, when it's like, no, dude, we use everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even narrative therapy, like that's what I self-identify as, like what I sort of specialize in. But even narrative therapy is a subsection of existential therapy, right? Existential is just it doesn't have its own list of techniques or practices, something like psychodynamic or Gestalt would have. Like existential therapy is just focused on how people construct meaning and how you use that as therapeutic intervention. And narrative therapy is a subsection of that.
Right.
But like, hey, I've said it many times before. I've literally called up Edgar and been like, hey, I have a client here who I feel like the issue they're dealing with is an attachment psychology related subject. What is your advice on this? Because guess what? That's a big gap in my knowledge. It's really not something I'm very attuned to psychologically.
Right.
But we share a lot of the same education in terms of like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic techniques, and these sorts of things.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And vice versa as well, man.
And guess what? I've stolen tons of my techniques from Edgar, right?
And vice versa.
We would literally be in class together and like doing role plays. I'm the client, he's the therapist, or even when I was just watching him do therapy or he's watching me do therapy, right? We would observe each other.
Right.
And I'm supposed to be taking notes on like what the client is doing, and I'm taking notes on what Edgar is doing, because I'm like, I'm gonna steal that shit when I go, because he's using a really cool technique here, like of like zooming in and zooming out, and like giving the client the opportunity to like narrow in on something and then take them back out and have them review the perspective they came in with, and I'm like, damn, that's a really good workflow for like giving the client agency to self-reflect, and I'm like, noted. I'm gonna steal that shit, like.
Bro, just like I stole your fucking imagery, bro. Like, if you guys don't know, like, if you really want to be a good therapist, always look at other people's like techniques and whatnot and adapt them to your own frame. Brady has this insane imagery, like narrative imagery that he does, and I remember seeing him do it with the client, and instantly I was like, all right, running this shit down. Gotta be able to do this, because dude, it works wonders. So yes, in case you guys are ever wondering, me and Brady always talk about like like sort of our own little supervision hour, how to grow, how to expand, and getting you tips and tricks. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But guys, if you guys have any questions regarding Mushoku Tensei throughout the whole series, feel free to ask us. At least up to now, the episodes that Brady has seen, they'll respond to, and the episodes I've seen, I'll respond to.
I realize this is something stupid, but I've seen episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and episodes, was it 16 and 17?
16, 17, yep. Where do you think Eris's character is going in the future? Honestly, she's probably going to go learn to be a better swordsman, Punyesh. Probably get strong enough to be able to defend Rudy, like she stated. But more than likely, she's probably going to be OP when she gets there, and more than likely going to be like a tough journey for her to grow and evolve from that. That's for me to put it. I mean, it makes sense. Where else would Ghislaine take her, right? But hey, with that being said, do you want to go ahead and start setting up for the most amazing fucking game out there? The most amazing thing.
Oh, are you talking about Gambit?
Not Gambit, brother. I'm talking about.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Don't say the title just yet, brother. Don't say the title just yet.
I know what you're talking about.
But I am genuinely excited to see. I was going to ask in Spanish, but feel free to. ¿Qué piensas de las diferencias entre cómo el anime trata los personajes en sus series comparados a las series? All right, so what do you think about the differences in between how, I guess, like, characters are portrayed in anime versus characters portrayed in, like, common series on Netflix or other things?
Bro, can I just say, how you were having, like, this weird whiplash where you could understand what I was saying in French?
Right.
Using your Spanish. I just looked at this sentence and I was like, I understand 90% of what I'm reading here because it's so close to French. Like especially that word entre. Entre is between, right? Like la différence entre comme l'animant personne. Like it's the same fucking shit. I'm like, bro, I know Spanish now. Like that is fucking great. That's hilarious. Yeah, to the actual question's point, though. I mean, there's a certain like difference between the way human characters are portrayed when they're acted versus like when they're done through anime. I think anime. Again, I'm an anime normie. I can't speak for like the broader genre or art form, let's say.
Right.
But I think you tend to see more archetype character writing. You tend to see like similar protagonist roles. So I think the uniqueness of anime is like because people are expecting those tropes, it's like almost easier to subvert them and like do something fresh and new. Whereas like you never really know what you're going to get with people because the performance depends a lot more on the character's writing than how it's than how it's done in anime.
You're hitting exactly the points that I was thinking about. It's like even in a theatrical production, right? Because in anime, you can control every single aspect of the reaction, the look, the smile. Everything can be portrayed in just exactly the way that you want it to be. But an actor has free range to put their own specialty on it. They'll put in their own interpretation as to what the lines mean. And every actor is doing this, even on set, even in an improv, even when we were doing our play, every actor had their own little motivation and goal and shit, as opposed to as opposed to an anime where people can literally control their motivations, their goals, where they're at in the story, so on and so forth. But that's a great question.
Another thing I will say that's different, one of the main difference I see between the way anime stories are told versus live action stuff is, think about how many live action series you see where you actually jump into the character's thoughts. Almost none.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was about to say.
It's very rare to jump into the cognitive thoughts of a live action character. Whereas anime, that's almost all of it, right? You jump into Subaru's head, you hear his narration, you hear Rudy's narration, you hear Naruto's narration. You hear the internal monologue a lot more. So I think that gets a lot closer to yes, it can lean more towards more blatant exposition of emotions, but it is getting you closer to the emotion. Whereas what you would get in place of internal monologue in live action is the character's performance, the actor's performance. Right. You really just don't see as much jumping into their actual head. So I think just the difference in art form, the difference in medium, lends to different modes of storytelling, and that's one of the fundamental differences I really see in them. And which lets anime get to characters in a little bit, like Wraith is saying, a little more deeply. But it can also make them feel a little more exposition-y sometimes.
All right, guys, with that being said, hey, it's been absolutely fantastic touching on Mushoku Tensei. I'm quickly going to go into Be Right Back so we can go to the restroom, grab our drinks, get ready for the fucking fever dream that's about to start.
And maybe you'll get round 2 of Mushoku Tensei when I decide.
And I'm going to probably jump into Konosuba or Steins Gate, which is another one that we have to start watching together, Brady.
Yeah.
Which is
Steins Gate, I am excited for.
I'm excited for Steins Gate, which is going to be fucking huge. But with that being said, guys, stay tuned because shit's about to get wild. Shit's about to get insane. You guys aren't even prepared for this. So we'll be... I'm scared because I know some of y'all might fucking lose your shit with this. Mods.
Things are about to rumble, let's say.
Yeah, actually, real quick, mods. If you can, get ready to put up polls almost instantly, literally minute-long polls. Because, anyway, we'll be right back.